All right, folks, welcome back. This is Yankees Unloaded. I believe this is our 34th episode, Gary, and you've done like the last two by yourself, so apologies for that.
Yeah, I
But
went full Shutter Island mode like Leonardo DiCaprio. I was talking to myself for 20 minutes. It was tough. I hesitate to call it a podcast. It's more of a journal.
that's funny. Well, hey, video journals, I mean, that's kind of cool. I don't know. We'll let that stick. But, what's not cool is when the Yankees aren't winning games. And that we don't have to worry about this time around because the Yankees they did not hold on. At no point were they winning this game until the end. So they actually walk this thing off in the ninth inning. Anthony Rizzo, the old school, sticking the bat out, just making any sort of contact. And I'm glad we saw it because not just the Yankees winning, but I also hate the infield in. I've always hated it. I don't know why.
Does it ever work?
I feel like it never works. And I feel like it's only like, oh, well, we're smart, so we have to do infield in. That's just the way it goes, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
how bad was that? I mean, that's an easy ground out if the infield's not in. Like,
Yeah.
like
you're not wrong. But by the way, just a side note, was that not the most Giancarlo Stanton day of all time?
Yep.
The dude goes 0 for 3 with 3 Ks.
Exactly.
He looked like a damn lumberjack out there. And we love Giancarlo on this show.
Oh,
and I know we called for his DFA at the beginning of the season, but like always, we're consistent. He played incredibly well to begin the season. He picked up Aaron Judge. He picked up plenty of guys in this lineup. This dude goes 0 for 3 with 3 Ks. He shows up like a G and ropes a double when we needed him most. So
I know.
If there's one thing you can criticize Giancarlo Stanton on, it's probably his health. The one thing you can never criticize is his ability to be clutch. This dude's been huge in postseason games for us countless times. He's been big, and I know a lot of people have forgotten that because of his contract and his health the last couple of years, but I don't know a single person that thought we were winning that game, and Giancarlo Stanton was a major part of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he was so key and critical down the stretch there, to have that rope that single, into right field. I mean, that was huge. And, I think all in all, I mean, this game isn't, what you want to see when you watch Yankees baseball. You probably want to see a team that scores 8 and gives up nothing. Realistically, this is a team that pretty much offensively caps out at 5. And you're hoping that they can get past that. Games like this, you're just hoping that they win. And so, today, not the most fun offensive game until really the end. We always love an exciting finish. And, at the end of the day, I mean, we've talked about this how many times in August. If we're talking about the Yankees, we're not going to be mentioning, that one game, in May. I'm really concerned about them because they weren't hitting. Like, no, because they can turn this thing around and change everything. I want to point out something because when I was gone, the obvious happened. We all knew it was coming. Glaber had his first home run as soon as it hit May. I got to say that something about that just cracks me up because it was like we talked about it. It was like, oh, yeah, Glaber, once May hits, like he's going to go off. And I think he's had a hit in every single game so far in May. I don't remember the last time this team had an off day. I mean, it feels like they're playing every day.
We are playing every day. That's just a fact.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the NBA where like Adam Silver's like, oh, yeah, do you need an off day for that? Well, Adam, we were 3 games off. Oh, 3 days, 5 days. We'll give you 7 in between games. It's like baseball's like, okay, on to the next.
Well, you know what? Ironically, we're playing every day, but it seems like guys are staying relatively healthy. Like I know I don't want to jinx it. I don't really believe. I don't really believe in. Yeah, I don't really believe in jinxes. No. But I will say this: the Yankees of last year and multiple years before that, it used to be where you'd watch 3 or 4 days and you'd see like a Giancarlo Stanton or an Aaron Judge walk off the field. You swear to God, you're watching. You're basically we're celebrating a win. Everyone's feeling good. And the next thing you know, you see Yes Network talking about, oh yeah, he woke up this morning and he was sore. We're not seeing that much this year. It seems like we're penciling in the same lineup. And when I saw the lineup come in this morning, I love this feeling that I had because there's been all types of conversations of what do we do with Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, all these guys in the lineup. But I almost have this assumption that I'm going to see the same lineup. And I actually kind of like that. Like, I get that there's certain adjustments we like. People in our chat were asking us, why doesn't Judge hit 2, right? That was a huge conversation. But
Yeah.
the Yankees have been an organization that they're just moving guys all over the lineup and seemingly with no form of logic whatsoever, like no human element being a part of that. And a large part of having a human being construct the lineup is having some regularity with what you're going to expect. Every morning I wake up, I expect to see Volpe, Soto, Judge, and then now Verdugo, who's now slotted in the 4 spot. I like that. So I just want to say that I get that there's some adjustments maybe that you can argue, but if there's anything to be proud of, it's that this team seems to be like run by Aaron Boone. Like, it actually seems like a human being is choosing this lineup. And I think that's helping this team, maybe not offensively right now because really no one's hitting, but
Yeah.
we wanted a middle ground between analytics and the human element. I think we're getting it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think that's, very key and everything. Kind of looking at what the Yankees, went through in that Orioles, series, it may have been tough for a lot of people. I was watching the Michael Kay show and it was pretty good, way of putting it. It's like, yeah, we can be down in the dumps about the Yankees losing three of the last 4. But we can't, we can't say enough is how good this Orioles team is. And it might be the best team in baseball. Very athletic, young, just guys that can get on base, guys that can generate, positive outs, and I think that was really kind of, I don't think the Yankees were ready for that. So, you get to see them 4 times early on. You see them 9 more, I think today with the Tigers, I'll say this: the Tigers have been really good this year. This isn't your Detroit Tigers from 2 years ago. So it really feels like the Yankees, while they've played like the Marlins and the A's, who ironically, like the A's seem decently competitive for as bad as they should be. Even though they've played those teams, like the Astros have been bad this year, you could make an argument. I mean, every team the Yankees have faced have had some sort of, tenacity to them, willing to stay in the game at all costs. And I think we see that with the Tigers. I think it's going to be a fun rest of the series because I think this team, they got a good bullpen. I think everybody knows that. And the Yankees have a good bullpen. So in theory, if you don't jump on the starters early on, I think we're going to see more of these 2-1 games, Gary. I hate to say it because I know, we like offense. I know a lot of people like offense, but I can't see this being any different unless the Yankees get up on, the starters early. And I'm not seeing that team right now. I think things that we are starting to notice, and it's definitely fair to mention, is now like Judge is now at 200 batting average, right? So he's starting to move his way back into the whole thing. Not quite where we want him, but, starting to see some encouraging signs. Austin Wells, I thought, really got on the right track the last series. He's like one of the only guys that hit. Cabrera is starting to kind of go into that slump that we were probably expecting. I know he had the home run, but it's definitely a little bit of a concern just because, you want to see that guy hitting 270 if possible because he was crushing it earlier in the season. And, anytime, you're in May and now guy starts to fade, you're just hoping it wasn't just like a 1-month wonder. Rizzo has been really good, and I think he's even been better, defensively.
Surprisingly good offensively. I don't know. I get that we saw him basically have a career first half of the year last year. He had the concussion issue. No one had a clue what was going on. But then he was atrocious ever since then. And no matter what happened, he just never got off the mat. And then we kind of all chalked it up. We said, oh, we expect to see some type of resurgence from Rizzo. Well, everyone seemingly forgot about him because, of course, when you're talking about Soto's was hitting 330 coming into today. So it's like you have a guy with an ops of 1,000 hitting in front of Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge obviously hitting under 200, which he was coming into today. Volpe was raking in the 7 spot. We ended up moving him up to leadoff. People forgot about Rizzo. They forgot about his impact. We talked about his defensive woes at the beginning of the year and how that needed to be picked up, because if not, there's no real reason for him to be here. He has to be excellent over there defensively. We don't necessarily have these answers around the infield. Volpe, of course, being the exception, but Gleyber Torres at second base, not the most fleet of foot, not the greatest defender over there at second base. And Oswaldo Cabrera, coming into this year, we didn't necessarily have a complete answer of what we were getting out of him at third base. So it was more of a question mark, I would say, at third and second base there. So the fact that Rizzo defensively wasn't good, we needed something out of his bat. And I don't hate to say it, but he's brought the bat. Hitting 256 is kind of his job. Get hit by pitches, hit somewhat serviceable batting average wise. He's going to leave the ballpark especially when it warms up, because we talked about it last month. Actually, Rizzo saved a game for us, leaving the yard with a 3-run jack. He doesn't hit at all at the beginning of the season. So just see that, and to see this type of impact early is huge. And yeah, you're absolutely right. With Cabrera, we saw a little bit of regression, and it's disappointing. But I will say this: hitting is down across Major League Baseball right now. It is cold. It is ugly. And, what else can you say other than we need some warmer weather? We would love to see it, but we can't make excuses, because some of these other teams that we see are grinding out at bats and grinding out games. Right now, the problem for the Yankees is their inability to bring a higher floor to the ballpark offensively. They just flat out don't have it. They'll show up and it's either a fun exhibition game, everyone's loose, or you'll watch and it seems like everyone's tight. Everyone's worrying about the strike zone, and we're sitting here memorizing the name of the guy behind home plate. When the New York Yankees, and I talked about it in the Baltimore series, you can't just be focused on the umpire and, oh my gosh, he's taking the bat out of my hand. Well, the zone's bad for everybody. At some point as professional hitters, you guys need to make the adjustment, and we need to say, okay, because it seems like literally just last week we were saying, oh yeah, we're sitting here talking about, oh yeah, Aaron Judge was completely ice cold, and then the next day it's like he has a breakthrough game, and we're all talking about, is this is Aaron Judge back? Is the captain back to take his throne? And then 2 days later, everyone's just right back. We're right back in the graveyard. We're sitting here talking about Aaron Judge is like ice cold again. No, this is just a lack of consistency, and that's for pretty much everybody except for Juan Soto. And I say all that to say this: when people talk about, Jake, how good this pitching's been great absent of the offense. Imagine how great Marcus Stroman would have pitched today if the offense showed up. Perfect example. There was a 0-2 count, in the 5th inning. Marcus Stroman was dealing. He had great stuff. Couple guys had reached base. Not a problem. Guys get on base all the time in baseball. And the broadcast was talking about the pitch selection. What should Marcus Stroman throw on this 3rd, 4th, and 5th pitch of this at bat? And the broadcast suggested he should go right after him. He should go with that sinker and try to get a ground ball. Instead, what did Marcus Stroman do? He goes with a changeup because he was looking for the strikeout. Quick explanation why: he didn't trust our offense. That's why. He didn't trust the fact that if he gives a ball up in play and they happen to score a run and you trade it out for a run, that the Yankees might not be able to go out there and answer. That's the reason why you see some of these guys like Rodon coming out of the game in the 5th or 6th inning, Stroman making different decisions on the mound. It's because of what our offense is doing in terms of putting pressure on our arms. If they're scoring, these are going to be easy solutions for our arms. You see the type of talent we're working with. You see what Matt Blake's doing with guys like Ian Hamilton, Victor Gonzalez, all these dudes that we try and nitpick and say, oh, he doesn't deserve a role or he should be pitching multiple innings. Look at some of the ERAs we've got in this bullpen. We're talking about Dennis Santana with a 3.68, Victor Gonzalez 231, 265 from Ian Hamilton. Marcus Stroman has a 341. He's pitching big innings for the Yankees. If I told you we were getting all of this output, you would expect the Yankees to be in first place. that would be your expectation. So it's interesting to see how small our offense has come up. I can't blame it all on weather, but at some point or another, these guys have to wake up.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, it gets to the point where it's like, if not now, when? And, then, and I hate to go this route, but then you have to start wondering, with the adjustments they made with James Rousen, if he has something to do with it. Because remember, we kind of pushed that back. We pushed that narrative away, but it's also the first month of the season. If this continues, then we have to know, because it's like, hey, what's going on here? So this is a huge win for the Yankees. Make no mistake about it. I think these wins are ones that you can build on, going into the postseason. So I think you look back on games like this, and maybe you don't, but your ability to take care of business in the bottom of the ninth, you have the advantage. You have last ups. You're at home. Just make sure that doesn't go to extras, because I mean, the way the Yankees are, when do they win in extras? I mean, they've maybe had like one win this year. It's been, death. And unfortunately, when it comes to baseball, you don't get like a point, like hockey. Oh, overtime loss, no big deal. It just goes in the overtime loss column. No, there is none in baseball. There's no style points. There's nothing. If you don't get a win, you get a loss, period. So that's a little frustrating. But no, I thought, this is exactly what they needed. Hopefully, like, Rizzo mentioned after the game, hopefully this is what sparks their offense. Now, obviously, we've said this a ton of times, but maybe this can help. And, obviously, they still have to face Skubal, who is just absolutely gross. I mean, he is absolutely filthy. He's going to be going up against Cortez in the final game of the 3-game set tomorrow. It's Casey Mize versus Clark Schmidt. So Mize actually has a 3.08 ERA, 1.22 whip in 26.1 innings pitched. Keeps the ball in the yard for the most part. Only one home run given up in 26 innings. So, obviously it's Yankee Stadium, so you have a little bit of an advantage there. And a lot of these guys are equipped to hit home runs at Yankee Stadium. But that is something to keep in mind. And, Clark Schmidt, his ERA is now 3.19. So he has really turned things around. I don't think he ever really struggled at any point. But I think we're starting to see him kind of evolve. And the thing is,
I'm waiting for you to say it.
Yeah, the thing is, I always say it, right? Getting through the third time through the order. But at the same time, like, today, all we needed was 5 innings from Stroman, and the bullpen did their job. I feel like I'm being a little unfair. It's almost more like just doing it for the meme, essentially. I'm being a little unfair to Clark Schmidt because he's basically doing what everyone else is doing. It's just like, maybe we look at him as in a way of like, hey, he started out like blistering hot. Like, this guy should go 7 or 8 innings, and he doesn't have any of those games really. But that's just not him, and that's fine. I mean, the Yankees can totally operate. If Clark Schmidt gives you 5 to 6 every game and just only gives up a maximum of 3 runs, you should win probably 65 to 70% of those games.
Well, how long into the game would you say on average Clark Schmidt's throwing? Just a guesstimate, because I wanted to try and make this point.
On average, I'd say he's throwing 5 1/3.
Okay, so let's just say on average that Clark Schmidt's throwing exactly what you said, 5 1/3. From what I see, when we made the projection of exactly what the Yankees needed from Clark Schmidt, do you remember the ERA that we suggested?
Yeah, under 4.
Anywhere under 4. Remember
Anywhere.
that?
Yeah.
Anywhere under 4. It could be a 3.99. We'll take it, right? Anything that starts with a 3, going below that. Now, having said that, if that's the case and you're throwing 5 1/3, you're essentially assuming that he's giving up two runs in his 5 1/3 innings of work. But here's the interesting part. How often do the Yankees have more than 2 runs after 5 innings of work? Not often.
Yeah.
It's not often. Most of the time, I see the Yankees have 1 maximum of 2 runs after 4 or 5 innings. That's so far. This is not a prediction. This is not a hot take. This is what I'm watching. I watched it today. I watched it the day before. I see it all the time. The Yankees are putting guys who their job is to be serviceable and to essentially hurl innings at a above mediocre rate. You need to be a guy who can give me a 4 ERA and throw innings. I don't need you to strike guys out. I need the ball on the ground. We're going to play defense. We're going to go hit. That was Clark Schmidt's job. Okay, he's not this power ace. And that was enough. But the problem is his enough is not good enough for this Yankees offense to overcome. This Yankees offense has to score. I cannot say this enough. Marcus Stroman has done more than enough for the Yankees so far this year.
I think every pitcher has, to be honest with you.
Has any pitcher underdelivered? Any single pitcher?
Tonkin, that's it.
Michael Tonkin is probably over-delivered for who the hell he is. He pitched 2 scoreless the other day. I never expected him to throw anything other than batting practice this year, and that's no disrespect. He has no business on this team. He's here for a reason, right? Because they obviously don't have enough faith in somebody else. Otherwise, they wouldn't have him here. So happy he's here, great. But let's be clear. Every single guy in this rotation has been excellent, and I can prove it to you, Jake. This is how excellent they've been. Most Yankees fans, if you ask them, what do you expect to do with this rotation when Garrett Cole comes back? He's obviously going to be on a minutes restriction, like he's in the NBA, on an innings restriction, right? Pitch count restriction. If that's the case, people are giving the answer, oh yeah, I want a 6-man rotation. That proves it right there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Best case scenario, you're hearing people say, oh yeah, Luis Gil, he's got the stuff to be in the rotation. I want him to be our 5. You slide Clark Schmidt or Nestor Cortez into the bullpen. Nestor Cortez or a dude with a 3.19 ERA, you're willing to push to the bullpen? How damn good has this rotation been? Score the ball. Score the baseball. If you guys are scoring and that dude with a 3 ERA, you're willing to just shove him into the bullpen as a long reliever, being the next Michael King, how good do we have it on the mound this year? We have to.
For real.
I don't care if it's hitting coach. To be honest with you, Jake, I cannot possibly put the barest responsibility on the hitting coach and say, you got to go out there and put the pieces where they need to be. These guys are professionals.
Well, no, we've definitely. Yeah, no, we've talked about that. We agree on that. I think the hitting coach thing that I was bringing up was more so if it goes on beyond, like, say, if we're at the end of May and nothing's changed, I have to wonder if, like, the approach that he's suggesting or whatever is just the incorrect approach.
Because so this is the thing. I don't even feel like the Yankees' approach is bad. I actually like the approach. When I watch... right now, when I watch Anthony Volpe, I just see a player who's struggling to swing at strikes. I see the same thing every single day. He's shown me a consistent weakness, which is the command of the strike zone. Even at his hottest point of the season, which is the beginning of the year, he was just getting a lot of fastballs in the strike zone, and he hits pitches in the strike zone very well. He does it today. He did it yesterday, and he's going to do it again into the future. But what does he do with pitches that he has no business swinging at? That's his issue. Juan Soto doesn't have that issue. That's something that he's just completely dominated. And when you see a guy get a pitch outside the strike zone, you see the broadcast just gawking over his pitch selection. There's a reason we talk about it, is because that will never slump. And that's something that a lot of hitters in our lineup specifically can learn from. And I say it all the time, but we seemingly see guys struggle with the strike zone every other day.
Yeah, and I want to add something with Volpe. I don't think necessarily he's struggling because it's him. I actually want to give him a lot of credit for his opening year start. I think teams changed the way they pitch to him. I think they figured him out, and now he has to go through another barrier of entry, essentially. That's what I think. I think it really hit me in the Orioles series. This isn't just a slump. This is okay, they figured out how to pitch to Volpe. It's unfortunate it took that, it was that quick, but sometimes it is. And so these people, these teams and these pitchers, they're doing their homework. They have their scouting reports. They know what he's going to swing at this. He's going to try to not swing at this. And, really what hurts him is when he's down 0-2. Any hitter, their average should go down theoretically when it goes down 0-2. but Volpe is probably the worst hitter 0-2 in the lineup. He really panics. And it obviously not earlier in the year, but like lately, like he looks defeated. So I feel like teams have really made, calculated adjustments to him. So I wanted to give him that credit because you don't make adjustments to a player if they're playing like crap to begin with. And he was killing it. And so I wanted to say that. But another thing I wanted to bring up, Gary, was the pitching like we were talking about. So I have all the ERAs here, bro. Now get this. Jose Trevino is the only one that has an over 4.27 ERA. Like even like Caleb Ferguson has a 4.26. Nestor Cortez, we'd like to see him step it up, but 3.86 is not horrible. Dennis Santana 3.68. You have Carlos Rodon at a 3.68. Also, he was unfairly given 2 runs I'll never get over. Stroman with a 3.41. Luke Weaver, we were bagging on Weaver, 3.20. Clark Schmidt, a 3.19. You also have Heel, 3.19. Jake Cousins is a 3.
Heel's been excellent.
Yeah.
Well, he's been absolutely dialed.
And I think the big, also Marinaccio, 1.86. He's been huge. I think he is so key and critical without Loaizaga, by the way, who didn't even give up a run before he got hurt. So, I'll say this. I think everything that we've seen, you have Heel and Schmidt. I mean, the whole rotation is in between, we'll call the cutoff 3.87 and a 3.19. So the entire rotation's in between that. So to me, you have probably a 65 to 70% chance of winning every game based on your rotation right now. The rest is up to the batters. And that advantage, I don't think anyone in baseball has currently because they're not supposed to pitch this well. And this comes down to the fact that Matt Blake is just different, but also they had talent. And it's why I think that they were genuinely interested in Blake Snell. I think there was definitely some interest there. But when they tried to play hardball and they declined the Yankees offer, Cashman was like, okay, well, that was the only offer we're offering. So like, we're not doing this whole negotiating because we actually like the guys in home.
Million?
Yeah, it was a pretty favorable offer.
Well, $150 million, no matter how many years it was, is really good in comparison to I think he got 66 million, which is just it's just nothing, right? But that's what happens when you go play Baltimore. Baltimore ran out Bradish, and then you saw Burns, and of course we ended up winning that game that Burns pitched, but he was excellent. Like their pitchers, that was the question mark for Baltimore. It wasn't what's Holiday going to do when they call him up. Everyone just kind of expected Holiday to be great, and he's going to be at some point. It's just a matter of time. He's going to get his time in AAA, get his confidence going, and he's going to show up when he's ready. But let's be very clear. Their weakness was that rotation. There's a reason Baltimore went and got Burns, and then we were looking at him, right?
Yeah.
We were saying that Corbin Burns was the perfect fit in Yankee Stadium. He was a guy who was a bulldog, a dude kind of built like Rodon. He just had a bigger pedigree, much longer pedigree, I should say. And so we relied on that. And Baltimore said, we like what we see. They pulled the trigger, and you're seeing that rotation's resurgence. So it's huge for them. And yeah, if this Yankees team wants any chance in October, which is how we're ultimately going to be judged, and I get it, guys, we're going to overanalyze every single game. We've got a podcast after every show. Volpe goes 4 for 4. We're raving. He goes 0 for 4. We're going to say, hey, I see some regression, right? But we need to remember one thing. We cannot possibly freak out after every loss. No. If you look at the Baltimore Orioles, who essentially just came in and their biggest test of the year was playing us, right? It was essentially a one-on-one show for the AL East. Baltimore shows up. They outpitch us, even though we pitched very well. We didn't hit. They walked away with They walked away with 3 games of the 4. But let's say this: just a week prior, Baltimore went and lost a series to Oakland, who we split with. We essentially said that we lost all momentum in that Blue Jays series, and then we went and played Oakland. We split. We felt like we lost everything, right? And you even said, Jake, winning that last game in Toronto was just huge for this team. But to be honest with you, how many people were thinking of that game in Toronto today? Not many. Not many people thinking about it. So what matters most is who is this team most often. And most often, our pitching is excellent. And we said it at the beginning of the year. I understand personnel-wise, maybe we're a little underwhelmed, but I'm sure, and Jake, you said the same thing, I'm sure we're going to get more. Based on this staff, based on our pedigree, we seem to figure out ways to get more. We did. We are exactly doing that. We predicted Rodon's resurgence. He has pitched really well, got touched up by Baltimore, but overall he's been really good. This offense has not figured it out. This offense has been the question mark, not just this year, but last year. It's the reason we won 82 games. They're also the reason we haven't won a World Series the past decade. They have got to figure out ways to stop pointing the finger about personnel because, in my opinion, this team personnel-wise is good enough to score runs. They just haven't figured out a way to put it together. I'm expecting when it warms up, they're going to warm up. You mentioned about Gleyber Torres in May. The dude's just a show. He's sliding like the 6th spot right now. So we're teeing him up really well to have a big May.
No, we absolutely are. And, to wrap this thing up, I think really, I don't want to speak for you, but I'll be planting my flag hard for the 6-man rotation. And I think they should roll with it the rest of the year because I think it's less of a workload on Garrett Cole to begin with. Mm-hmm. But also the way they use the pen, that's never changing. So they're going to continue using it the way they use it. That's just how they do. That's their approach, with pitching. And I get it. I don't have to love it, but if the results are there, they're there. So my thing is the 6-man rotation makes sense. They all offer something different. So like, for instance, Schmidt and Heel have pitched the same amount of innings at 31 innings, right? Now, Schmidt has given up way more hits than Heel. He's given up 30. And Heel's only given up 17. Heel has actually been kind of freakish, honestly. Only 17 hits in 31 innings. He's given up the same amount of runs, though, as Schmidt. Schmidt's given up 4 home runs. Heel's given up 2. Heel has 7 more walks than Schmidt. And Heel has 6 more strikeouts than Schmidt because his K-to-9 ratio is insane. Heel. Then you have Cortez, who has given up 5 home runs, and Rodon has given up 6, and Stroman's given up 5. Cortez does not walk people, okay? 7 walks in 42 innings, which is absolutely insane. So the point is that I'm making is that these guys do different things. They're similar, but different. You have Cortez, who's going to come out, and he only has like 3 pitches, and he's still going to get enough spin to make you miss and still vary enough of his pitches where, he can still make you miss even with his 3. Then you got Rodon, who you've said the words before, power pitcher. That's what they brought him in, to do. Heel is also becoming a power pitcher. He's got the most velocity on the team. So you have a flamethrower in Heel, who is getting better each start, which is going to be scary for the rest of the league. So you have Cortez, who's kind of all reliable. He needs to keep the ball in the yard, but doesn't really walk guys. Then you have Rodon, who just can absolutely shut you down as a hitter. And he needs to keep the ball in the yard as well. And then you have Stroman, who can get ground balls and just really be efficient in that role. And then you have Schmidt, who at times it kind of feels like Schmidt might have the best stuff on the entire team, well-rounded, like the knuckle curve and everything. But, he can't get through the third time through the order. So they all have different things. They have different pros and different cons, which I like because you essentially have a diversified rotation where, not every single game, it's the same approach. Like, this guy, all 5 guys, they give up the long ball, or, all 5 guys have the same 5 pitches or same 3 pitches or whatever. You have a variation here. And then
they're all good at something else. And
yeah. And you had Garrett Cole to that. And now, complete variation. Well, Garrett Cole offers everything. He's the best pitcher in baseball when he's healthy. And I don't like saying that because when he's healthy is not fair. He has been healthy. This was a freak thing. So
Yeah, and you did mention that Clark Schmidt is not good in his third time around, and that may be true.
Yeah.
But one thing's for certain: if he is coming out the bullpen, because at some point or another, this rotation is going to shrink back to a 5 if they ultimately go with the 6-man, and that's going to be in the postseason, or they might do it in October to get guys ready for their workload in October. So
Do
I'll
you think
say
they
this:
go 3-man though in the postseason?
absolutely not. No way. No.
Yeah, I'm glad because I don't want that. I know they've been trying to push that in baseball. I mean, we see managers do that all the time. It's like trying to reinvent the wheel. Well, how were you winning World Series in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, even the early 2000s? You were winning it with 5 men. Now, some were psychos like the Diamondbacks, and they would just pitch Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling every game essentially.
Well, we don't have a Kurt Schilling, so let's be very clear about that. I don't give a damn what Marcus Stroman is doing any given year. I don't care what, unless we sign. I mean, unless we sign like Corbin Burns, and he was out there with a 2-some ERA, and like even that resurgent like Carlos Rodon that I mentioned to you earlier this year. I said his ERA was going to be 2.5, so I essentially said he was going to be dominant. Even that level of Carlos Rodon is not going to be Kurt Schilling in the postseason, okay? No. It was a very special occasion that Arizona found themselves in. They essentially knew we are not the better team here. We've got the 2 best arms in the entire series. We're going to use them. We're going to deploy them. The Yankees are not coming into any series saying, hey, Rodon's better than their 1 and Garrett Cole's better than their 1. No, it's just Garrett Cole that's better than their ace. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine because overall, our team needs to be good enough as a unit to go win a World Series. Over the years, we just haven't scored in October. That's the big issue. Everyone kept talking about the wires and everything and how Aroldis Chapman, the reason that he blew those saves against Houston is because of the cheating, all that stuff. But then you look up at the scoreboard and the Yankees weren't scoring. They just weren't. And so when you actually look at it, yeah, like some of those teams in the past years, like the Dodgers who went out and lost to Houston in the World Series, they maybe have a gripe as to why they lost a World Series, but the Yankees weren't going toe-to-toe with their lineup. They weren't hitting. That's a huge problem. So, yeah, if you're not going to score, then we can talk about 3-man, 5-man, 6-man rotation, who's going to go where, who's our long reliever. Who the hell cares if these guys aren't scoring? So we're putting the spotlight on them. We're putting the pressure on them on this podcast. We mention it. We're going to mention when they're doing stuff well. Right now, even after a win, it just kind of felt like more of a surprise, a pleasant surprise. We need to see some more consistency out of Volpe. Some of the things you said that baseball is adjusting to, out of all these guys, we need to see a higher floor. I need to have a better expectation of what's happening when I turn the game on. I don't want to see shutouts going into the 7th. It's despicable.
Yeah, no, that's ugly baseball. And that's not, think about how much money they're paying these guys, the payroll. It's like, what's
$300 million? What are we doing?
What's the average per run scored?
I'd be sick. And we can't sit around and have Juan Soto hitting 330. He's going to potentially win a batting title, win AL MVP, and you put him next to a dude who you just re-signed for $360 million. All the fans begged for him. We've named him captain. He's going to hit 200 for you. It's unacceptable. It just is. And if he's not healthy, by all means, let us know so we can cover that accordingly. We can give you your due. But if you're not going to let us know that something's not right with your body, well, we have to cover you as a player who's just not answering the bell. And I can't throw the brunt of the blame on the team that Brian Cashman put together or that Hal Steinbrenner allowed him to put together. I've got to put the brunt of expectation on the players.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. But yeah, I think that's going to do it, man. Bright and early tomorrow for you anyway. 1:00 Eastern time game.
No.
Yep. Unfortunately. So
why do we do this?
Dude, I'm so tired of them, man. I like them at 7. I like them at 7. I really do.
Yep.
Because, game ends around 9:30. We record at 10. It's just so much easier. So hopefully you guys watch this and, we'll see. The algorithm might screw us over because we haven't posted, consistent like we were earlier, but we'll get back on that train. And, once again, thank you guys for over 500 subscribers. Really appreciate that. We're going to have super chats enabled on here. Super thank yous, I think is what it is. Super thanks for like non-live streaming. So when we drop videos, like this will be a video, this won't be a live stream, obviously. If you guys at any point want to support the channel further, we will have that option. We're getting that squared away with YouTube now. But it's thanks to you guys, because that means that we met the 3,000 criteria watch hours and over 500 subscribers. And then when we get to 1,000, in the effort of being transparent with the audience here, when we get to 1,000 and then we have 4,000 watch hours, we can apply for the YouTube partner program. And that's going to be a huge milestone in this show. And I think after that, I mean, really the sky's the limit, because once we're able to start, making revenue off this, we can start upgrading our equipment and things like that, and just, keep really, focusing on, going full steam ahead. So really appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. You can follow me at JK Bogan. You can follow Gary Sheffield Jr. at Gary Sheffield Jr. And you can follow the show at Yankees Unloaded on all social media. We'll be back tomorrow to cover a game that should not be being played at 1 p.m. Eastern time. But again, appreciate you guys hanging out with us.
And like this video.